let me introduce myself. Amalia is my name. I'm also on the marketing team, and I work really closely with our product teams to launch new features and communicate what Quizlet has to offer and make sure that our users understand how best to leverage those tools. Olivia Watkins is also on this call. Do you want to say hi?
Hello.
And she is part of the user operations team. She manages the Quizlet Help Center and also trains all of our customer support agents. So she's very knowledgeable about the product, and she's going to be helping out with our Q&A portion of the session. And like Claire mentioned at the beginning of this event, if you have questions throughout the presentation, make sure to add them to the Q&A queue, which is just a little button on your Zoom tools. And just make sure that your questions really align with the session topic. If it's a general support request, make sure to go to our quizlet.com/help, and you can actually contact our customer support team in that way, and they can give you a much better experience and help you out. And we're just going to focus on questions that really have to do with the session that we're talking about. Okay, so for those of you who are totally brand new to Quizlet, what even is it? What are we talking about today? So essentially, Quizlet is a free online and mobile platform that helps students practice and master whatever they're learning. We have a website, we have an iOS app, an Android app. You can use Quizlet, on your iPad, on your mobble device, wherever you have access to the internet or Wi-Fi, you can actually access Quizlet. And so, what does that mean? So there's actually kind of two sides to Quizlet. There's the interactive study material, and you can create this material on Quizlet, you can organize it, you can share it with your students, and that's kind of one major side. And then that actually works along with effective and fun activities and games that we offer on our platform. So your students have access to this material, and then they can actually practice it and master it with these activities and games, all within the Quizlet platform. So how does Quizlet help you as a teacher? Well, in a number of ways. It will help you engage your students with the material you're being taught in class, and they can use this material in the classroom with you. They can use it outside of the classroom to study, for an upcoming quiz. Our tools will also save you time in creating resources that you can use from year to year. So even though you're putting in some time up front, potentially moving some of your Word documents or whatever you have onto Quizlet, once you have them on Quizlet, it's easy to organize them, it's easy to edit them for any kind of new use cases. You have access to them all the time, and so do your students. They have access to them, again, on the website, on their mobile apps. It's a really great system to organize everything and have it accessible to everyone whenever you need it. So today's session is really going to focus on this first side of this kind of two-part system, the interactive study material component. And the next session, I believe, actually goes deeper into the study activities, so make sure that you stay tuned for that, and then you'll get kind of a full, well-rounded view of what Quizlet has to offer. So I just want to go over this quickly. I know Andrew mentioned some of these stats, but just to show you kind of the value that people are already finding in Quizlet's tools, over 30 million people every month from over 130 countries use Quizlet to help them learn or to help them teach. And those people have created over 250 million pieces of content that are now accessible through Quizlet's database to others to use. So that's pretty awesome. And then we did a recent survey, and we heard from students and other learners that 95% of them actually felt that Quizlet helped improve their grades, and 90% felt that Quizlet motivated them more to achieve academically. So that's pretty powerful stuff, and we're very, very proud of that. So before we dive into our live demo, I just want to review a few key terms so that we're all on the same page. You'll hear me say a study set, and what is a study set? Well, that's basically the collection of material that you're either teaching or you're learning as a student on Quizlet. So you can think about that like a digital flashcard deck. It can be terms and definitions, it can be questions and answers, it can be a concept with kind of a paragraph of notes. It's really up to you. You can even think about it like a study guide, but it's the piece of material on Quizlet that you'll be sharing with your students. The set page. So this, I actually have a screenshot on the right side of the screen. This is a set page. This is basically home base for your study set. So you can see there's a title, there's a little toolbar where you as a teacher can go and edit the material and see other kind of stats about it. There's the study mode buttons. So those are the ones that we'll be covering in the next session. And those are all the ways that your students can actually practice this material. And then below, you'll see the term list. And that is just kind of a preview of what this set includes and what your students will be practicing when they use those activities. The create page, this is where you actually go to create or edit your study set, and we'll dive into that in our demo. And then finally, I just wanted to point out on this little screenshot, the left side of those kind of card strips. That's what we consider the term side, and then to the right is what we consider the definition side. And like I mentioned, the open format of Quizlet study sets allow you to really put anything you want in either of those two columns, but just so that we're on the same page, that's kind of what I'm going to be referring to them as today. Okay, so there's really two ways to create content on Quizlet. The first way is to search through Quizlet's database, and again, we have millions of study sets that are just ready for you to access and use. You can search, you can find something on your topic area, and if you feel like it's not something that's quite perfect, you want to make some changes, you can easily make a copy to actually customize that set. And when you make a copy, this actually saves a version of that set on your profile that you can access easily anytime. You can continue to make edits to, you can make additional copies. It's a really great way to do things, and we'll review this in a couple of minutes. And then the second way is to actually create a study set from scratch. So in this case, you can just enter your terms by typing them in. You can actually import them to do it quickly. We have a lot of great tools that help you, do this easily and efficiently, and I'll go into those in our demo. Okay, and so first step to leveraging Quizlet's tools, sign up for a free account. If you haven't done this already before this session, you can go ahead and take this time. If you can open a separate browser, go to Quizlet.com and sign up. Having a free account allows you to create content on a Quizlet, to organize it into folders and classes, to invite your students to become members of your classes. It really opens up all of Quizlet's capabilities. And it's worth noting that in order to use Quizlet, you or your students don't necessarily need to sign up. If you follow a link to a Quizlet set, you will have access to those study modes. But again, as a teacher, I would really very much encourage you to sign up for a free account. And then if you want your students to be able to create their own content as well, that is something that they will have to do too. And then also, I did want to say that while we have the free account option, which gives you all the core capabilities of Quizlet and really gives you a ton of value, we also have an upgrade for teachers that we've actually added additional kind of teacher-specific features to. And so I'm going to be showing free features as well as features that are part of the Quizlet teacher upgrade today. And I will just make sure to point out if something is part of the Quizlet teacher upgrade so that you know you may have access to this, you may really want something like this, but just so that we're clarifying that. And then also later today, I believe at 10:45 maybe, is that right? We're going to be doing a deeper dive on the Quizlet teacher upgrade. So if you are interested in learning about all of the tools that are available through that, tune in for that session and we'll talk more about it. Last thing to note about signing up, make sure you check the box that says, I am a teacher. This actually unlocks a variety of features that we've built specifically for teachers. So if you're not sure if you check that box on sign up, go ahead to your account settings and just confirm whether or not that's the case. Okay, so we've made it to our live demo. During this live demo, we're going to search for a study set. We're going to make a copy and customize it. We're going to create a set from scratch, and we're also going to share a set. So without further ado, let's see if this, great. Okay, is that showing up correctly? I'm actually going to log into my account. 1 second, please. Can't even spell my own last name. Okay. All right, so now we are in my account, and this account is upgraded to Quizlet Teacher, so of course I will be demoing some of those features, but I just want to review what we're seeing right now. we've landed on what we call the latest activity page. And this is, again, kind of just your home base for when you log into Quizlet, where you can find all of your recent activity, be it sets that you've created or sets that you've added to your classes or sets if you're a student that you've recently studied. So these are just a lot of kind of easy, quick links to get at relevant content. To our left, you'll see this sidebar where we have kind of more navigation options. You can go to your profile to see the content that you've created. You can go to your settings. You can visit our help center, which has a lot of great articles on, Quizlet basics to, how to use advanced features. You have your classes options here to create a class and then kind of see them in a list and have links to those. Same with folders, which is another layer of organization. We have the Quizlet blog where we often post great ideas from our teacher community, so make sure to check that out. Lots of good stuff there. But what we're really going to focus on today is this top header, these two options here, search and create. And actually, before I do that, I do want to point out, this is just a little tip. If you click on Quizlet on the upper left corner, that will always bring you back to this page. So no matter where you are on the site, to get back to home base, the latest activity page, click on the Quizlet logo. So let's start with search. So what I love about search is that it saves you so much time. It's really great because, as I mentioned, we have millions of sets already created. You're bound to have a piece of content that you can start using right away. Okay, I'm back on track. Okay, so let's type something in, and you can type in a subject, you can type in a topic, keywords, a book title, kind of whatever you need. The more specific your search is, the better the results the better your results will be. I think that's true of everything. But just a little tip. Okay, so if we type in something like this, you can see that all of this content is showing up as results, and I have access to all of this. Another thing to point out is that I have different ways to filter what I want to see. So we're going to focus on study sets, but we also do have interactive diagrams on Quizlet. You can search for Quizlet classes. You can search for specific users to see more of their content. You can also filter based on if the image has sets. And then if I have an upgraded Quizlet teacher account, I can actually search by content that is created by other teachers. So I'm going to go ahead and do that today. Update results. And now I can see next to each user's username, there's kind of a teacher badge. This signifies that they are a teacher and they've created this content. So I'm going to go ahead and click into this one. This one looks good, 34 terms. I can see the title. And if you want to preview this material, you can just kind of scroll down the page to look at what's included in the set, and this looks really good. But if I want to customize it, it's just this little button here. And actually, before I do that, I just want to point out that there's this amazing quick link to this user's profile up here. So I can see their username, I can click on that, and I can actually be taken to their profile page where I can see more material that they have created and organized. So, if I think this is a really helpful set, this is a really great way to get at probably very similar helpful content. So now I'm just going to go back to this set page, and I'm going to go ahead and make a copy. So now, taking that action actually duplicates the set that we just saw, but starts to save it to my own profile. And now I'm taken to the Create page where I can actually edit all of these terms and definitions. So just some quick things to point out. I can edit the title if I wanted to do something like that. And you can actually see, because this set is in Spanish, I have some options for accents here. I can change visibility settings. So this means this set is public right now to everyone, but if for some reason I wanted to share this with particular students by password, if I wanted to share it with a specific Quizlet class, I have those options there. Some other things to point out, I can delete terms. If I scroll to the bottom, I can actually add terms. I can move terms within the set. There's a lot of ways you can customize this. Another thing that is not often noticed is this fun little button that is switch terms and definitions or flip them. I can do this as many times as I like, but if you ever kind of want to format them that way, that's really easy to do. We also have a number of keyboard shortcuts, so as you get better at this, you can actually use your keyboard to speed through this kind of content creation. And then also, you can add a description. So this is a great way if I wanted to include more information about what this content is, or if I wanted to even give instructions to my students. So when they follow the link and land on the set page, practice this tonight, you'll be quizzed on, can't type, on Friday. Something like that, or if I want to include a message of encouragement, whatever you want to do, you can add that as a description. So I'm just going to highlight those features for now, and then I'm going to say this looks good. I'm going to press the Create button. And now you can see, now I have my sharing options, but now you can see that this username is now my username because this is a new version of the set that I've saved to my profile. You can see my description right here. You can see the term list, and that's how easy it is. If I ever wanted to go back in and edit it some more, I can easily do that with this little button, this edit button. So I'm not going to do that right now, but that is always an option for you. Okay, so now let's talk about creating a set from scratch. So, sorry, there's just a lot of toolbars here. Is this? Great, okay. So I'm gonna click on this option, Create. So remember how last time we clicked on Search to find a set, clicked into it, and then made copy? I'm gonna click on this other option, which is Create. And this takes me back to a very similar looking page. It's the Create Set page. But here I have the option to actually add all of this stuff from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and say vocab list week 1. And we always recommend that you make your titles as detailed as you can. I mean, obviously for organization purposes and clarification purposes for your students, that makes sense. But also it kind of helps inform Quizlet search so that other people can find really relevant content if you want to keep your stuff public for other people to find. Okay, so I added a title, and then I just want to point out that the fastest way to create sets, if you already have existing material in a Word doc or in a Google Sheet, something like that, you can actually import it. So I'm going to actually click on this option, import from Word, Excel, Google Docs, etc. It's right under the title. I'm going to click on that, and you'll see that this little box pops down, and it has the option for me to actually copy and paste into it. So I'm going to go to a word list. I'm going to copy this content, and then I'm just going to paste it in. And you can see you have different ways of formatting that depending on how your list is formatted in the source document. But you can see this little preview below. This all looks good. I can check for mistakes. And once I'm happy with that, I can click Import. And so what's amazing about this is that it automatically populates it into the Quizlet set format. You can see all of your terms and your definitions here. Like I mentioned before, you can add more. So there's that. And of course, if you didn't have anything to import, you can always type in terms like I just did. So something that I want to highlight is that you can see down here, it's asking me to choose a language. So it actually recognized on the left side of the set, the term side, that this was English, but it's not as clear about the definition. So I can actually click into this choose language, and I can choose English. And this is a really important step because Quizlet actually offers 18 different languages of text-to-speech audio, which means as your students are studying, they are actually, hearing the content being spoken aloud. So if you ever hear something funny on a Quizlet set, it just means that maybe the audio isn't set correctly. So something I want to point out is auto-define. This is a really wonderful way to save time. It's basically a collection of popular definitions also used in Quizlet sets. So, I can just click on that little button to the right and actually choose a definition to populate in that field, and I can do that as many times as I want. I can continue to edit that if I wanted to. It's a really great time saver. Other things to point out, we can add images. So Quizlet offers a free gallery of images, and it shows, I think, 8 images that you can choose from. We also have, as a Quizlet teacher option, the ability to upload your own custom images. And this can be really helpful if you have a specific image from a worksheet you want to use, or if you do something fun like ask your students to illustrate a term, and then you can upload that into that field. It's a really great feature. So it's basically the same thing. I click into that, or I click upload my own. Okay, other things to point out, while we do have that text-to-speech audio, Having a Quizlet teacher account means that you can record your own custom audio. So if I wanted to, I could hover over this little microphone icon on the right. I can record audio for the term, for the definition. You can get really creative about it and record something like a hint or an example sentence, a bird call, whatever you want to record, you can record in that field. So that's a really helpful tool, especially for a language teacher. You want to slow down the pronunciation, for example, for kind of beginning language students. That makes a lot of sense too. Okay, so let's see, other things to show you. I'm not going to go into creating an interactive diagram. That is an offering that we have where you can upload an image and actually add points to it that correspond with your terms and definitions. And that's a really wonderful tool, but we actually have a session on it later in the day, or tomorrow maybe? Later today. So stick around for that one. That will be a deep dive into this wonderful feature. So I think that might be all the time we have. I just want to go ahead and save this set so I can show you the set page. So if I'm happy with this, I can click create. Something to note is that we are constantly auto-saving that content. So if we step away for a moment and come back, we should save that. And you can come back and always edit it as a draft. So I save that set. You can see I have all these great sharing options. Share it by link, Google Classroom, share them in Mind, and then I can add it to a Quizlet class or folder with this button down here. So in this case, I already have a class set up, so I can easily add it that way. I could also create a new class. I'm not going to dive too deeply into that capability right now, because I just want to showcase a few more things that are on this set page. So like I mentioned, this is where your students will go to actually access the material. And again, if I need to edit it at any time, I can do that here. The share options don't only exist after you save a set. You can always get to them right there. And yeah, I think the last thing is to mention this little icon for more. It has even more ways to share content with students. For example, if I have some students that don't have smartphones or access to a computer at home, or just prefer kind of a tactile study experience, I can always print this material. So that's an option. If I want to combine a bunch of smaller sets into one larger set, to have my students study for the final, that's an option right here as well. For any reason, if I want to export this material into a different type of document, I can do that. And then finally, embed is right here, where I can actually embed a specific study mode of this set, or just this general set into a website, an LMS, anything like that. So these are just more ways to kind of get this content to your students in the way that you need to. Okay. I think now we're ready for Q&A. Olivia, take it away.
Awesome. We've got a bunch of great questions here. I'm going to knock out several at once, which is that, yes, we are recording these sessions. I think I muted. Cool. I'll just talk into a modest computer. We are recording these sessions, and we'll be emailing them to all registered attendees of the Unconference. I don't know exactly when, but you will definitely get a recording. That should get.
It should be a few days after the end of this event. We need to, edit them a bit and make sure that they are accessible on our YouTube page. But we will notify people when we do that.
Yep. Cool. So I'm going to start with a question from Sheila. She says, do you have a step-by-step way to learn all that Quizlet offers with directions? I'm a baby boomer and I'm computer challenged. I teach high school and adult ed classes, and they love it when I send them links to Quizlet. Sheila, you definitely want to check out the Quizlet Help Center. That's quizlet.com/help. And you can go to the Teacher Quick Start Guides section and click on the Teacher Quick Start Guide Quizlet Fundamentals, which will give you a detailed, helpful overview of the best way to get started on Quizlet.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight where that is. So remember, when I click on Quizlet, it takes me back to my homepage experience. And if I want to go to the Help Center, it is just right up here. So quick link to that. You can search different articles, and you will be able to find that information.
All right. Let's see. What is next? A good one up here.
I see some questions. There's a number of questions, this is Laura again, about recording audio.
Sure.
what is that? How does that work? I think we have a bunch of foreign language teachers who might be on the Unconference day that want to know more about how you add your own audio to it.
Yeah, so any set that I've created, and again, this feature does require an upgraded Quizlet teacher account, but if our text-to-speech audio, doesn't cover the language that you're teaching, or again, you think it's too fast, or there's certain words that it's just not getting right, you can definitely record your own audio. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's actually do the set that we just created. If I go into Edit, I can actually show what this looks like. Okay, so if I click into this, and if you can see to the right, or actually let's do this one, to the right there's a little microphone icon, and if I click on that, it'll ask me if Quizlet can use my microphone from my computer. I'm going to say allow, and then you'll see this little option appear. And basically you can hold your space bar to record your own voice. And again, I could record whatever I want here. You can record on the term side, you can switch the definition, and people have used this in really creative ways. For example, if I didn't just want the text-to-speech audio to read the definition, I can actually record an example sentence with the term accelerate, and that could almost be like a hint for my students, or almost like a third side of the cards that they can study. So there's a lot of cool ways to use this. It's really easy to use. And this is what it looks like. I'm not going to go into actually recording things right now, but it's very easy to use.
Okay, thanks, Amalia. You can record for up to 30 seconds for each side.
There we go.
I think that knocked out a couple questions as well. So anonymous attendee asked, folders versus classes. I think this is a great question.
Great question.
As a teacher, I think creating folders is great for organizing content in the way that works best for you. So for example, if you teach several sections of French, or English or Spanish or whatever, you may want to put all of the content that you'll be sharing with your various periods or sections in a folder, and then you may want to create classes to be able to share different material with different groups of students based on where a particular class is on the syllabus or what material they're working on in a particular week. So I think folders for your own organization, classes to share material with large groups of people, be that students or your colleagues.
And the great thing about classes that folders doesn't really have is you can actually invite people to become members of your classes, which mean, if that's your students, it means that when they log into Quizlet, they will similarly see a little link to your class on their sidebar and have really easy access to your content. For upgraded Quizlet teacher members, this also means that you have a little bit more insights into how these class members are using the material in your class. So again, if you're interested in learning more about that, join us for our session later in the day.
Cool. This is Laura again. There's a number of questions about protecting sets. Mm-hmm. So how do you protect your set from being seen or copied by other people? How do you know who's using your set? Can you talk a little bit about privacy options for sets once they're created?
For sure. So once again, we're going to click into the set. You're going to click into Edit to change something about it, and you will see your little privacy options are just on the right side, right above that diagram area. So if I click into Change, I actually have different options for who this set is visible to and also who this set is editable by. So if we're looking at visible to, by default, this is safe to everyone, but you can easily change this to just me. Let's say that you're still working on this and you don't want to make it public to your students yet. You can just select just me. And that means you're the only person that will ever be able to look at this set, access this set while logged into your account. People with a password is another option. So this might be a good thing if you're just sharing it with a couple of people. You don't want it publicly accessible in your profile, but you want that certain group to have access to it, and maybe they're not members of your class. There's also certain classes. So, if I have Spanish 1, Spanish 2, Spanish 3, maybe I want this set visible to Spanish 1 and Spanish 2, but not Spanish 3. I can actually select those in this little drop-down area and, ensure that only members of the class are the ones that are able to access this content. On the other side, editable by, so generally I would just recommend always keep this to just me. If you're working very closely with someone to, create a set, you can actually do that by password and with certain classes as well. But I would say the platform isn't really optimized like Google Docs or anything like that for real-time collaboration. So just be careful about using that. And I, again, would just recommend keeping that to just you. So you are the only person that has control over editing this set. And then I think the last thing you said was actually seeing more information about the set, right? So there's a few more button options in this little toolbar. You can see more info about this. So for example, if I had copied this set, that would actually show up here. And actually, I'll go back to the one I copied earlier so you can see this in action. If I click into info, I can see that this set that I adapted was originally copied from this source material. And if I click into that, it will take me to the original material. This also gives me a few other stats, an overview or an overall number of people who've studied the content, how many classes it's in, how many folders, also basic material or basic information like this set is viewable to everyone. It's created and editable by me, and then these are the languages it's in. Does that help?
Cool. I'm going to answer a simple one. Diana Tejeda asks, can I join more than 2 sets in order to create one set of flashcards?
Yes.
Yes, you absolutely can. You can use our combine tool to merge several sets together. I think Amalia might have already shown that, but this is great for when midterms come around or finals come around. You can make one big exam review set consisting of lots of the material you've taught over the course of a year or a semester.
Right, and I'm just kind of showing this on the screen. So you'll see I have a list of all of my sets. I can do sets that I have in specific folders or classes, which can save you time if you know the content that or you've organized the content you want to combine. I can select those in this list and you can see they show up on the left side. These are the 2 sets I will combine. I can choose to create a new set out of them. And if I press go, it'll bring me back to this create page where I can edit the title. So, for final, and I can actually save this as its own set. So you can see now it has a total of 28 terms, so a combination of those 2 original sets.
This is Laura. We're talking about great ways to create sets. We see a question from an anonymous attendee who asks, when you mentioned choosing a language, I saw that chemistry was on the list. Can you explain or give an example of what that might be exactly? And I think I also saw another question about math. So it might be helpful to delve into the other languages that we support.
That is a great question. So yeah, I did mention briefly when we were editing that Spanish set that depending on the language you choose, you'll actually show different symbols or accents. So a really interesting language would be chemistry. And this just gives you the option of all of these different symbols to use within this content that are, conducive to learning chemistry. And in math terms, you can just search right there. Math and symbols is another option, and you can see all of these symbols pop up. So if you're typing in, equations or formulas, this might be a really helpful way to easily format that content on Quizlet. And of course, if you have that on one side, you can definitely keep this other side to English if you're providing a definition or a written answer, that sort of thing. Does that clarify?
Yeah.
Great.
Cool. I've got a good question from L_Rudolph. I co-teach with 2 teachers. Can I share my classes with them and can they edit my lessons? Yes, definitely. So when you create a class on Quizlet, you are a class admin. Mm-hmm. You have that permission because you created the class. You can invite other members to join and make them admins as well. So you could add both of your co-teachers, make them admins, then invite all of your students. And I think Amalia touched on this before. You can also give people editing permission to sets you create. So you could give your 2 co-teachers permission to edit your sets by a password you all share, and then they can add to your material and help collaborate on making sure you have the best content for your students that you put in the class.
And that's exactly right. And I've just been showing on my screen, this is what a class page looks like. You can see I have a sets view, which is just the list of sets within the class. I can add sets from this page here. And if I click into the members tab, you can actually see the list of members. So right now it's just me, the class admin, but if I wanted to invite more people, I could use this really easy join link, send this via email or text or something and have them follow it to join the class. And And then if I want to invite people by email address, that's also an option. For teachers, we also connect with Google Classroom. So there's lots of ways to get people into your class. And then one thing to mention that Olivia didn't say, I don't think, is that if you actually edit this class, you can actually allow members of the class to add sets and new members to the class. So if it was a class of just other teachers, that might be a great way to allow collaboration, have everyone who's a member of this class actually add their material. So there's this one place where you can go to find great resources. And you can always check that off if it is, a class with just your students and you don't want to give them that access.
Awesome. This is Olivia. Again, I'm a little bit closer to the microphone now. So hopefully for those that it was tough to, who are having a tough time hearing me, I'm also going to slow down. I'm a notoriously fast talker. So Jay Tackett asked, can students create logins, sign up for Quizlet without an email address? You do need an email address to sign up for a Quizlet account. However, students do not need accounts to study on Quizlet. If a set you create is public, you can send your students the link, they can study it, they can play Quizlet live without signing up for an account. And then another option is if your students have Google Apps for Education accounts that are not linked to email addresses, they can sign up through Google, but there will be no concern about them receiving any emails or things clogging up inboxes.
Yep, that's a great point. And, especially for younger students, the whole sign-up process can be, confusing, and remembering passwords is hard. Unless you are a Google school, then it's really easy. But especially for younger students, if you just share the link to the set, or, you can still utilize the class feature and just kind of share the link to the class in your LMS, or, as a QR code that you put in as a poster in your classroom, and they can scan it. There's lots of ways to get them access to this material, and they can still, even if I was logged out, if this was a public set, I could click into it and still have access to all of these different ways to practice the material. How are we doing on time? Great. More questions.
This is a good one from Christy. When you combine sets, will the sets also stay separate? Yes, when you create a combination, that creates a brand new distinct set of all of the terms from the sets you chose. The original sets you used for the combination all remain in their separate intact state. So the combination is a brand new set. Yep. All the original ones you use are kept separate.
And you can see that on my screen. This was the set that I created in the past hour, this vocab list, and this above it is the set that I more recently combined with a different set. So both of these are separately editable. And one thing to note about that is we find that kind of the optimal number of terms in a set is probably around 20. And while we have a way to combine a lot of sets into a larger set, there is no way to divide a very big set into a bunch of smaller sets. Actually, except for one thing, I'll show you guys stars in a second. But there's no way to really divide those into smaller sets. So generally, I would recommend, if you're doing something like you have, 7 vocabulary words every week, to create individual sets for that. And then at the end of the semester or whatever, you can actually combine all of those into this master set for your students to study versus trying to go the other way around. And on the subject of stars, this is something that I meant to highlight on this page. On the set page, your students will have access to this really great way to focus on particular content. So let's say I've gone through flashcards, I have a sense of which ones are harder for me. I can actually star certain terms that I want to focus on. So again, this is a really great tool for your students. I don't think as teachers you're going to be using this as much, but just something to tell your students. They can star these terms, and then you'll see I have a way to filter this. I can look at all of them, or I can look at just the starred terms. And this also means that I can just study only the starred terms. So if I wanted to hone in on just the things that I know I don't know, then I can do that here. And you can see just, by these being outlined in the yellow with the stars, you can tell that you're studying just the starred terms.
Great, thanks. This is a question Laura flagged to answer live. I'm going to take it over. D. Mohan asked, all the options being presented for teachers to copy and edit existing quizzes are available to paid subscribers only. Yes, that is not correct.
No.
Just to be blunt, as long as you have an account on Quizlet, you can use our copy tool to save other teachers and students' material to your own account and modify it for your needs.
That's exactly right. And sorry, that was a little confusing. I was just mentioning the features that were paid. Everything else that I did not, explicitly say this is an upgraded account feature is completely a free feature. And it's really important to us that all of the core capabilities of Quizlet are free for everyone to use. And an example of that is that copy and customize feature. So if I click into any of the sets that I find, which again, this list, all of these sets are free for me to use. I don't actually even have to copy and customize them. If they are perfect as they are, I can just share them directly with my students. You can see that the share option exists on this page. And then again, if I have a free account, I will still see this option to copy.
We have probably 2 more minutes max. I have a sort of question/comment combo from Amina. She says, I have used the link to share with students on my biology classroom page. That is most helpful as the parents have access to it in order to help their child study for the upcoming exams. I teach at the high school level. I think keeping parents in mind with Quizlet material, keeping parents in the loop on Quizlet material is great. That way they know what their kids are doing and they feel involved and engaged with your classroom. And maybe parents have needs for studying. They're in school. Maybe they can use it at their job. So I think the broader you spread the word and the more people you get involved, the better.
Yeah, and actually one thing that I think I'll highlight here, I'll actually highlight here. So if I click into my username, you'll see this little drop down with more kind of quick links to get to certain areas on Quizlet. If I click into for teachers, this is our teachers page. It has more resources for actually, sharing Quizlet with others, getting your students started. And if I want to visit, a way to introduce more people, we have all of these great professional development resources for teachers, which include, presentation templates to do an actual presentation for others. But also we have a bunch of these handouts. And these are great because there's, one for teachers. There's also one for students. So if you are trying to get all of your students signed up, or you want to send this home with them so that parents have a little bit more understanding of what Quizlet is and what it can offer, this is a great way to, print these out or fill it out with like a PDF editor and share that. You can actually add the join code to your class so that your students can follow that link. Extra instructions around potentially username creation if you want them to be very specific about that. And then it just has a little bit more information about Quizlet is. We have one of these specifically for parents. This is the use case where your students are younger and they actually need parental permission to sign up. So this is a little bit different, explains the privacy policy of Quizlet, and actually takes parents and their children through the process of signing up together. So just a couple more resources to make this a really easy process for you. Great, so I think that's all that we have time for. And I think the next session is ready to go. So I'm just gonna hand it back to Claire. Thank you so much for your time today. And make sure to stay tuned for the rest of the sessions. They're all very informative today.
Thanks, everyone.